Welcome to another episode of The Catholic Novel. I should say right away that it's not quite a novel. In the introduction to the story, Green says this story was not written to be read, it was written to be put on a movie screen. If you've been watching this series at all, first of all, you know that I'm a big Graham Greene fan. I think he was the greatest novelist in the 20th century writing English. Incidentally, he never won the Nobel Prize for Literature. He never won. And I found out years later that there was someone on the board who just did not like him and prevented him from getting the prize. And they gave the prize to other writers who, in my opinion, did not match Graham Greene. But anyway, Greene at the beginning says writers have different habits in terms of remembering ideas or jotting down notes. Some use notebooks. And he said years ago, he wrote a sentence, something like this: I was shocked to see Harry Lime because I had attended his burial before that meeting. And he wrote it on an envelope. And then after the success of the film The Fallen Idol, directed by Carol Reed and produced by Alexander Korda, Korda came to Greene and he asked him to write a story for the screen about post-war Vienna. This is the time when the post-war Vienna was ruled by four powers: Soviets, United States, French, and British. And Greene found the envelope and found the sentence and then wrote this whole story about Harry Lime. I think it's amazing how creative artists work. You know, I basically use Jacques Maritain, but every so often you read something and say, how did that come about? Anyway, Greene is my favorite author. He has often been described by critics as writing in a cinema-like way, that his images are so real they almost beg to be put on the screen, and I agree with that completely. But his films have had a strange history in terms of movies. I think 16 of his books have been turned into film, and some of them more than once. I know The End of the Affair was turned into a film twice. But for whatever reason, they never seem to be able, or hardly ever get the religious part right. Now, some great directors filmed some of these 16 films. Otto Preminger, John Ford, who some people think is the greatest American director of all time, Fritz Lang, Joseph Mankiewicz, Peter Glenville, Edward Dmytryk. I'm going to use two examples on how strange some films turned out if you read the novels, all right? The first one is The Power and the Glory, which was turned into the film The Fugitive with Henry Fonda, directed by John Ford. It's a pretty good movie. It's got almost nothing to do with the novel. Why? Because in the 1940s, even a great director like John Ford could not make a movie in which a priest had committed fornication and fathered an illegitimate child, and also was a whiskey priest. Also, a film was made of The Heart of the Matter, starring Trevor Howard, who in some ways I think is the quintessential Greene character. Now, in the novel, there is a big, big problem. The main character, Scobie, commits suicide. And the question Greene dramatizes, and believe me, when you read it in the novel, it becomes a real problem. Is Scobie going to hell, or is he a saint? He seems to commit suicide out of pity and love for two other human beings. He doesn't see any other way to help them. By removing himself, he thinks he's going to help them. Well, when they made the movie, they had Scobie murdered. I mean, it's unbelievable. The whole point of the novel, they just took out and made him a victim of a murder. So those are two extreme examples, but it's happened over and over again that for some reason they've had trouble getting the religious dimension. Now, I think The Third Man is the best film ever made of something that Graham Greene wrote. Some very prestigious film society in Britain voted The Third Man as the greatest British film ever made. And that's quite a statement. But I can accept it. It is a great movie. Now, in the novel, the main character, I guess, is Holly Martins. He's a friend of Harry Lime, and Harry Lime has sent him a note saying, come on over to Vienna. I think I've got a job for you. And so he goes over, and as the plot develops, you see that throughout their relationship, Holly Martins has been made a fool of by Harry Lime. Whenever Harry Lime comes up with some, wild scheme, Holly Martins is always left holding the bag. By the way, in the treatment that Greene wrote, the main character's name was Rollo, but in the movie, Joseph Cotton objected to that name, so they made it Holly. So he gets there and he finds out that Harry Lime was killed by a car accident. A car ran over him. And as the plot develops, you discover he was not killed at all. He's been involved in black market selling of penicillin, and with a group of other racketeers like himself. And the penicillin, they water it down so they can stretch it further, and this kills some children and maims others. So Martins first doesn't believe Harry has done anything wrong, but when he finds out what he did, he meets him in a lift over Vienna. You know, one of these lifts high up in the air. So when you look down, the people look just like dots. And in the written treatment, Holly says to him, "You used to be a Catholic," and Harry Lime says, "Oh, I still believe in God and mercy, all of that. I'm not hurting their souls." And he says, "Look down at those little specks. If someone told you you could get 20,000 pounds for every one of those specks, would you be shocked? Or would you immediately start counting specks?" Okay? Harry Lime seems to be a perfect example of a total narcissist. There's a wonderful line Green comes up with. He says, when Harry woke up in the morning happy, he just presumed that the whole world was happy. I mean, talk about having everything in your life center around, around yourself and this world, okay? And your world matches the world, and you're happy, so everybody supposedly should be happy. What critics of Green's writing have sometimes described his milieu as Greenland. And what they meant by Greenland was a dark, dangerous terrain, kind of sleazy, populated by sinners, and populated by people who were in flight, sometimes physical flight, sometimes spiritual flight, and sometimes both. Green did not like that term, but I think it does describe many of his novels. Matter of fact, I can't think of one novel of Graham Greene's in which there's a happily married couple. There always seems to be something wrong in a human relationship. Now, what Carol Reed, the director of the movie Third Man, is, he just nails it perfectly. To kind of suggest Greenland, he uses several tricks. First of all, the lighting is terrific. Often the camera angles are tilted, almost suggesting what a crooked world this is. And he gets as the actor to perform Harry Lime, Orson Welles. And this is before Orson Welles got, way overweight. He just conveys this sinister narcissism. The world revolves around him. Now, my reading of the text and my seeing of the film, I've seen the film several times, is he invited Holly over because he was going to arrange that he would hold the bag again, get stuck with the bag again, and get arrested, for selling this penicillin and so on. So when they're up in the lift, he suggests that he has a gun and he could easily shoot Holly and throw him out, and he didn't think the police would be too concerned looking for a bullet wound if someone had fallen out of one of these lifts. And then he realizes it's too late for that the police already know that he's not dead. They've dug up the grave and they found the man that he murdered. So that's not it. And so at the end, Holly agrees to help the police catch him because he's so shocked at this, this selling of penicillin. And that's a very exciting scene. In the text it's exciting, but it's also exciting on the screen. And I'm telling you a spoiler alert now, okay? When Harry Lime tries to escape by running through the sewers of Vienna, but the police are on to him and they block him off and catch him. And apparently shooting at Holly, intending to kill Holly, the bullet hits a wall and goes off and kills a really innocent policeman, kind of a really likable guy, an innocent guy, okay? And Holly takes the gun and goes after his friend, and he finds him wounded, trying to get out of the cellar, but he doesn't have the strength, and the police are waiting for him anyway on the street. And he says, Harry Lime says, "Bloody fool." And Holly says, "Did he mean me, or did he mean himself? Was this some kind of act of contrition that he was making?" As I read that, I thought, Green cannot help bringing the Catholic dimension into it. In the text, he says, "You used to be a Catholic." In the film, he says, "You used to believe in God." But the same point is being made. How can you possibly live this way if you're still a Catholic and if you believe in God? And Harry Lime's position is, well, they're better off. They're better off. I'm not attacking anybody's soul. So, I think if you really meet a narcissist, it's kind of frightening. It's sort of impossible to relate to them, to get through to them at all, okay? So here's why I say it would be a Catholic novel. I gave you 2 examples. You used to be a Catholic. Oh, yes, I still believe. And then at the end, was that an act of contrition? Was he talking about himself? Bloody fool that I've been. But it's also Catholic in its depiction of evil. There was a critic, Pauline Kael, who claimed certain film directors depicted evil so well because of their Catholic backgrounds, and that makes a great deal of sense to me. I don't think Carol Reed was a Catholic, but Green's description of post-war Vienna, it is sleazy, everybody's got a racket, everybody's got an angle, and here is this man who claims he's still a believing Catholic, but he's got the worst crime that, he's doing the worst crime that's, it's inhuman. Giving penicillin that will kill kids or maim kids. So I would say the 2 things. The mystery of evil is very dramatically depicted, and also the Catholic dimension, which is, it's not mentioned many times, but it is mentioned at key points. Now, I'm wondering, why did they cut that piece of dialogue out and change it to "you believe in God"? Who knows? Who knows? I don't know whether they thought it would distract people. I don't know. And I could go through other Graham Greene scripts that were turned into films in which you say, well, why did they do it this way? But the 2 I gave were good enough. Okay, so the mystery of an artist creating is a very good study could be made of this novel. A line that he thought of years before he was asked to write the screenplay, and he wrote it on an envelope. It's almost like Abe Lincoln doing the Gettysburg Address. And when he was asked to do this script, it came back to him. And I'm trying to imagine what was he thinking of when he first wrote it? Harry Lime, and I thought I saw him buried, and now I see that he's alive. And then he builds the whole thing around that, and Carol Reed is able to nail it down. He just nails it down. This really is the best film ever made from anything that Graham Greene ever wrote. So here's what I'm suggesting. Read I don't call it a novel, I would call it a novella. Read it, you will find it, you won't be able to put it down. And then watch the film. And you'll also notice how the music adds tremendously. Carol Reed was, I think, at a nightclub or some kind of a dinner, and he heard someone playing a zither. And he knew that was the instrument he was going to use, and he uses it all through. Now here goes nothing. Ready? Da 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 da. You can get on your computer. Just put down theme for the third man. Okay. This is, in a strange way, this is a really entertaining novel, and it's a great film.